Hello and welcome to What the Flick Reviews, The Walking Dead. Francis and Kim here today. Very small and intimate gathering. We're talking about Twice as Far, episode 14 of season 6, which saw a lot of changes. We lost 3 characters in that one, well, he changed who he is.
Yes.
So we've lost who he was. One person died and one person just left.
Yes.
And this was, I mean, this might be considered a slower filler episode, but I really liked this one, and I think it showed a lot how that we can have a good Walking Dead episode that isn't all agonizing and isn't all explosions.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that there is flaws, and we'll get to them.
Sure.
I think that they're doing this recurring theme of showing you what an everyday life is going to be like away from some of the chaos, like you do, like the way that the beginning scenes of everything was just becoming like a little bit more rhetorical. Same thing was happening each day, but I felt like that was just a small indicator as to the fact that even if you do try to get into an everyday routine, those like demons are still going to follow you everywhere, as we see with Carol, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit. But that was what I took away from it, is that they keep showing you these things of like Rick and Daryl going to try and do an everyday run like a few episodes back, and then in this, but it's also trying to see how the group from those from the Alexandrian group are trying to fit in with those everyday chores, and it's almost as if they're necessary to Rick's group in order for them to get some sort of sense of normality.
Well, I think before we've talked about the duality between the weak and the strong.
Yeah.
And so as far as that, I took a lot of notes about the beginning, particularly with Denise, and it gave me a lot of questions. I mean, when you're watching The Walking Dead, you have to wonder, is this something, is there meaning, or do things just happen?
Yeah.
Does this symbolize something, or is it just a greater symbol of how terrible things are?
Yeah.
And I think this episode encapsulated idealism versus cynicism or realism, growing into someone versus who you've always been. Are people what they do or what they say? At what point is what you say and what you want who you actually are?
Yeah.
And I think we saw that with Denise and Eugene in 2 different ways. I mean, I guess we could take it as there are casualties.
Yeah.
There's no foolproof way of getting anything done or changing or becoming stronger.
Yeah. I mean, I do get that sense from Denise as well. It's like she was there for a reason. She was there because she wanted to learn and grow, but she was almost there because she has to try and, it's almost as if Rick's group, when they're not killing and they're not going out and doing missions, they don't know how to act, right? Because the only thing they have to do is to go out and try and get more supplies, and they're in charge and they're the one that's going to execute. But not realizing that in order to live in this world, you have to keep growing. You have to grow your numbers. You have to mature these less experienced team members like Eugene or like Denise, so that they can become an asset. But the one written rule of any camp is never take your fucking doctor with you. The only doctor should never go on any runs no matter what. That's why that became a huge plot hole for me, because you just don't take her no matter how much she wants.
Well, I think she was pushing and pushing, and Daryl was like, no, and Rosita said, you're not ready.
Yeah.
And they were right. And, you know, Abraham turned out to be wrong about Eugene. He bit that guy in the dick in the most sincere way
He had
possible.
a mouthful of dicks in a good way.
But I want to go back to Denise's speech. I mean, is taking chances the way you live and survive? I mean, after she took the soda can out of the cooler, they said, are you an idiot? What are you doing? And she said, do you know what this means to me? And I'm wondering, is she a fool?
Well, I think
what amount of pragmatism is in here?
Yeah, I think that it's very similar to the points we've been alluding to in the last few episodes. Is that like why was Abraham so harsh to Rosita, and why was he so harsh in making his adjustment? Why is Carol taking a chance with someone that we hadn't really seen her meet before, but then now is opting to leave? It's often because it's this theory of, okay, you don't know when your time is up, so why not risk it for something like that? Like, if you're not risking it to accomplish something or get the final things or chase after love like Abraham is, then what are you actually doing in this world then? Are you just skating by? Because it's such a fragile world that you can just be taken apart, as we see at the very end. Like, that's what happens.
It's not without its casualties. I mean, that's a very, well, not real, but it's a very hard reminder that not everything succeeds, and not every good intention turns into a good result. It did make me think, you know, what is living in this world? What is love? Is any of it worth it? And then as a viewer, you think like, what am I watching? So it becomes very meta after that.
I had to look deeper into it to try and get myself away from the frustrations that I felt in this episode. I'm not going to lie, I didn't enjoy it as much. And the main reason is because of Carol's character and what's going on there, right? So
So Carol's written a letter. I
Yeah.
thought it was just to her paramour, but
Yeah.
it was kind of to everyone,
Yeah, I
saying,
guess it was.
I can't stay anymore because I can't love you, because I can't kill for you.
I think that's bullshit.
It did seem a little, I mean, we've been building up to she can't kill anymore.
Yeah, I feel like they were going a very good place with Carol's character. They
Mm-hmm.
were building this sort of pragmatic approach of how some badass killer / mom is having to deal with both, right? And she's basically at the end of the last episode saying, I'm not okay, I can't do this anymore, basically. And I thought, okay, so we're going to have some sort of character arc to see how she's able to push through this and find her own sort of place in this group. But her going out into the world, do you think she's not going to have to kill someone else out there, or not going to have to act very
Her
similarly
chances
to
of
here?
survival are so much lower. I mean,
Yeah.
with Carol, she's a character who I wonder which one is the mask.
Yeah.
Is the mother the mask, or is the killer the mask?
And that's a good point, but it almost is just setting it up like, I feel as if they're setting themselves up for just a little bit of an okay, oh, all right, there she is again moment. Like, we saw her leave and come back and save the day. So what now? Is she either going to leave and suddenly be killed, or is she going to come back again? And it's just going to be this. I felt like it was just a rushed summary of the
It
storyline.
did seem a little rushed
Yeah.
at the end, and well, bookending a little in the beginning with the rosary. With her, I mean, I go back to Denise and Eugene. They both have very, I want to say marketable, but in the real world, very valuable skills.
Yes.
We have a doctor, and we have someone who can essentially
Craft,
make them
yeah.
rich again in whatever the currency of the world is. And then they're not really valuing that. They're trying to either foolishly or smartly branch out another way as well. Carol has value beyond killing.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if she's recognizing that or letting it fall to the wayside, or which part of her she's really valuing the most.
Well, you see values from Carol through his development of people like Daryl, right? I feel like Daryl is always thriving when he's around. Carol, I feel like she's good and she's guidance for him, right? So she's always kind of his, I don't know, shoulder to lean on at times, and he remains, I think, thriving in this world through someone like Carol and is able to help her. But she doesn't necessarily see that at times. She sees the character very similar to Paula last episode. Is that what she's going to become? That's why I think she's left in this episode, because when she's seen how harsh and how cold that character was with the Saviors, I think she's leaving to prevent herself from getting to that stage. If she kills again, she thinks, all right, there's just no line. I'm going to be able to, I'm so far gone from my humanity that I can't come back. She tried, I think, to toy with the affection of one of the Alexandrian community men, and I think that
I don't
didn't do
think
it
she
for her.
was toying
Not
with
toying,
him,
but I
but
think she was almost
maybe
like
experimenting. Like,
to
can
see
I do
whether
this?
can I feel, maybe she did get close to him and she doesn't want to have to kill for, or maybe doesn't want to have to put him in the jeopardy of her not being able to protect him if she doesn't want to kill again, because if there's an influx of attackers, how is she going to protect him if she can't kill? But it's all these different plot holes that I thought weren't well-rounded enough with Carol's character. I felt like they could have definitely seen at least some sort of interaction with someone in the group to describe what she was feeling, maybe a conversation with her and Daryl or
I
Rick.
don't know if it's poor writing or if it's that the character's having erratic problems, like Abraham is having crises all the time and acting dramatically in response to them. I don't know. I think you could argue either way.
Yeah, it's. I mean, we can see what's going to happen in the next episode, whether or not we see. I think I don't mean to be pessimistic, but I think this could mean somewhat of a journey towards the end for Carol. I could see somewhat of her coming into a situation where she has to save them and putting herself in the line of fire necessarily,
And
to
then
try and
just
stop
die.
it. I think so, because if you we've already seen her journey at least 3 times now. Her journey from.
I mean, we've seen Glenn die almost 3 times now.
Not as much putting herself in death, but like with her, the drastic action she took in the prison, and then the drastic action she had to try and take to help Lizzie.
The Alexandrites after that.
Yeah,
even.
and the Alexandrians after that, and helping at Terminus. Like, we've seen her journey back and forth from the edge so many times. It's like, how many more times can we see it, really? Like, she's proven that she puts herself into these situations and helps in any way possible. But if you bring it back again and see that, okay, she's fine again this time, I think it just gets a little bit repetitive.
I think I'd like to see a complete arc for her, not regress back and then go forward again, and then regress back and then go forward again, which is the in-out thing with her.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw that last lingering shot of Morgan.
Yeah.
We know that he's built himself somewhat of a jail.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I don't know what he has in plan. Is he going to go help Carol, get Carol back? Is he done with her?
I think that with him, it was just like, it was a very good scene. It was one of the few that I enjoyed, was between him and Rick, and he's like, why He's just like, to give you another option. Like, because that is, again, what I mentioned in the last review, and I'm glad people enjoyed our conversation in the last review, is that question is like, what is separating Rick's group from anyone else at the moment? Morgan wants to be that tool to separate them by giving them another option. Because the wolves wouldn't give anyone another option, neither would the cannibals in Terminus, neither would the saviors, but Rick's group are always supposed to be able to offer a little bit of refuge. But again, look what happened. Can you offer refuge? But then we see Daryl offer someone refuge and to let them go, and he puts his crossbow through Denise's eye. Like, that is the price you pay for trying to give someone a chance at times.
Yeah.
But again, if you don't...
Well, again, there's
how do you
nothing
separate
foolproof.
yourself?
It's not really black and white. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Perhaps that could call back to Rick's origin as a lawbringer,
Yeah.
a peacemaker maybe. I don't know if he's still that man anymore. And then that goes back to the other theme of who you are versus who you want to be, or who you have been versus who you want to be. So
what did you think of Denise's death? Like, were you shocked?
It actually got spoiled for me before this week.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I saw it, and I did another video on Nerd Alert about rumors about who will die at the end of this season, which makes me think more about that, because it did say, well, Denise is in for it this week with the crossbow.
Oh, damn it. That's unbelievable. Like,
so
the thing with that is like, we should have kind of seen it coming, right? Because she's the only real separate member who's had somewhat character development. Because if you kill off any of the other Alexandrian
she's not really
communities,
core group,
yeah,
but she's still likable.
She's still significant enough to you to feel some sort of remorse. Like, it was such a... By the way, they're finding new ways of making me feel these deaths even more, right? We see last episode, Paula was killed when we couldn't see it. We just heard her gargling and getting killed. But in this episode, it was almost as if, like, Denise, I don't know how it works in terms of your anatomy, but she was finishing her sentence while it was going through her brain. It was like that message was already sent from her brain to her mouth.
It just slowly...
It was slowly whittled out. So we couldn't...
out.
And I think that was symbolism for what she was trying to do. She was getting her message to them, but it wasn't really transferring as much as what she would have wanted. It was rough.
And she was, if you think about it, I mean, from a symbolism point, she was not the intended target.
No.
She's a casualty, an unfortunate bystander or target, missed target. I mean, that sucked.
I would have expected them to show Tara's reaction, but I think she's on a run or something like that for 2 weeks or something like that. She's away.
I was waiting for
I was waiting for that, because that's what kind of brings that full... the side of sympathy, you feel like it kind of brings it full circle there. But I'm interested to see how Daryl reacts to this, because that is, in this world, that's a direct result of him being more of a human. He
kind of react. I mean, we saw him digging the grave and, looking forlorn. And
yeah. It's because again, it's that question of, like, this is what Morgan wants to instigate, but if you do instigate it, this is what usually happens in this world. So it's just like, you got to literally kill or be killed, because he let that...
Is it like a nihilistic view that way? Because it just seems like people are going to die no matter what you do, whether you want to bring peace, whether you want to bring order, whether you're a bloodthirsty killer who's out for themselves, trying to rob people and steal everything they've gotten for themselves in the world.
Yeah, I feel like you're luring to...
It sucks. It's really existential.
Yeah.
Try anyway.
It's like you either try or you try to remain true to what is going to keep you mentally stable in this world, or you just cross over. And I think that's what Carol's trying to toy with now, because she was the other side. She was killing without even thinking. She killed in the prison. She was blowing people up, and it was working to a certain extent before she's seen what she could become. And I think that it is an interesting story, and that's what keeps me involved in the show. So it is interesting to see how Negan's group are going to continue along this road, because they seem to be out to right a few wrongs, but again,
and create more wrongs.
Yeah, and create more wrongs. And it's just interesting to see how we haven't yet seen Negan, but we are seeing parts of him through each of his kind of disciples.
He's becoming a hated and feared character without ever appearing on screen. That's good job on that one.
Yep.
I'm having an existential crisis, so I think we're going to wrap this up. Let us know what you think below, and we'll see you next week.